Hey guys, welcome along, welcome back. Part 7 now. It's still Sunday, so I finished part 6 this morning and now I'm doing part 7. So basically what I'm going to do now is put the LES together so that can dry it and everything before I start doing some seam removal. And this is basically the launch escape system. It goes on the top there. It's going to go onto the BPC, which is the blast protection cover, and that's the bit that goes over the end of the command module. Okay, so if you want to display this command module on its own, unfortunately it's got this great big nub on the top there where it should have the docking system. So remember, I've got my magnets in there. So basically that's going to be put together and glued to there, but I'm not going to glue it to there yet until I've got this glued together and the seams dealt with. So I'm just going to whip this off the sprue like so. And that can go back. In fact, what I'll do is get rid of that waste sprue there, and as we go through we cut the sprue off and you get less and less sprue left behind, and then you end up being able to get rid of the box, which is my goal. And the reason I'm filming this is because, as you can see here, once again, as with the legs on the lunar module, remember I worked on them and slimmed them out and everything. I'm going to slim this out. So I'm going to take my knife, wherever it may be, wherever it's gone, Mr. Prepared once again. Okay, so I don't need them anymore. And literally just go and scrape away the mould seams, because it's the actual parts are okay, it's the mould seams that are making them look fat. So just going to go around that one. Go around that one, and then do the same all in here, just trimming away like so, and that will make it all look a lot thinner and more scale-ish. You could completely remake this if you wanted to with wire or rod, plastic rod or brass rod, but I'm not going to. Maybe on the 1/96 scale I will, but not on this one. So I'll go on and carry on doing that, like I said, like I showed you on the lunar module, and just basically get all that cleaned up, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, so we can see that this one isn't done, and this one is. So as you're looking at, the one on the left has had a little bit of a modification, so you can see that it looks a little bit better. This one looks a bit better than that one. It's a bit weird. It's due to molding restrictions. Obviously the mold tool splits like this. So those actual cross beams aren't round, they're actually oval in shape that way, so you've got to carve quite a lot of them away. You can see from on the back, you can see how much is removed. So yeah, a bit of work there, but probably easier than remaking it one out of tube. So I'll go and get this one done, and then we'll get them glued together. And there we go, that's the LES put together. One thing, if you are building this kit, I would seriously recommend removing the pins, or at least the top pin. There's quite large pins and holes in here. The actual pin, certainly on my kit, the actual pin forced it out of alignment, so you ended up sort of like this. So yeah, worth remembering to remove those pins. You don't really need them anyway. The bottom one's okay, I think, but the top one certainly had to go. And then I've put a little bulldog clip on there and put some glue down the joints there, and put plenty of glue in there so it goes through to the back. I want it to be, and then I think once all that's dry, I think I'll go over it with the extra thin again and sort of try and soften it all down and round everything up, because it's all, as I say, due to molding restrictions, it's all a bit out of shape. So that'll get glued onto there once that's dry. So I'm thinking the next thing we need to look at now is some of these bits and pieces. Some of the odds and ends that go around the outsides of it. Like, we've got nothing on that page, and there's nothing there. Oh, there's some here that go around these part number 8s. They go around the lower end here. I've got my F1 engines there, so they can come out and go over there out of the way. So I'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll look at getting those on. It's part number 8. So is there just 2 of them? weird. It's showing a location for them. Oh, I see. So when you actually put this onto stage 1, then they'll line up then. Okay. So yeah, let's look at that, and I'll be back in a sec. Looking at this lower section of stage 1, cleaning up, I've noticed we've got these lugs on here that clip into that stand, and I'm not think I'm going to use that, so I'm going to cut them off because I don't like the look of them. Even if there was some sort of clamping mechanism that held the rocket down to its base before launch, I'm sure it wasn't some great big plastic lump like this. So I'm just going to cut these off like so. Be careful not to take too much of it once. I don't want to damage my little cutters, but there we go. And then it'll take some careful clean up to make sure we don't get the lose the ribs in that area as well. So it's not the easiest place to get into. It would have been easier if the fairings were separate. Probably easier to leave them on there, to be honest, but I don't like the stand because the whole thing sort of sits on the fairings and you lose the nozzles underneath, and you know they're such the F1 engine, I think, is what this is all about, or a big part of it anyway, and that's what I want to see. I want to see the F1 engines, so so that's why I'm cutting these off, because I don't want to hide them away in that stand. I need to be careful I'm not going to slip and cut my hand here. So I'm just going to slice down either side of that rib like so. This plastic's actually quite hard, which makes it more difficult to work with in areas like this, but it can be a bit more forgiving when you need to start, you know, really laying into it. Should be able to just clip down to that line, and then clip down to that line, and the same here. So you get the idea. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep going now on this side, get this side sorted, do the same on the other side, and then I'll show you the finished result. So stick with me, guys. It's going to be a while for me, a few seconds for you. Okay, so they're gone now, those lugs. They were there and there, so a little bit of carving about and going in with a needle file just to get the corners re-established. We'll see what it looks like when it's painted. If it needs a bit more work, it would be a problem, but I think it'll look absolutely fine. So so that's that bit done, and as I say, the top of that tank's in now, so I need to glue this to the base, and I'm just looking, and it's not quite flat. Now I'm not sure if it's the bottom of this that's not flat or if it's the top of this that's not flat, so I'm going to get a piece of coarse sandpaper and then go over here onto a flat area, and then what I'm basically doing is like this, holding the emery down flat and the rubber down, but I'm not doing it here because my board's not dead flat. So let's just have a look and see if that's improved things at all. Yes, it has. So that's done it. So it's just a bit out, obviously one little spot or something. So that can go together now like that. I've got to be careful now, avoid having you look at it like this because it's an awful way to usually look at it. So that can go like that, and then I can glue those number 8 parts on, these parts here. I'm not going to glue the fins on just yet because I don't want to knock them off. And obviously I'm not sticking to the build sequence because I should have built those rocket motors in first and put them in there, but I want to paint everything first and then put that in after. So let's just get some glue on there, and this is going to have to be a really strong joint. So the other thing I need to do if I'm not using that stand is take these pins off here and here, so they're gone. Now that'll sit flat rather than rocking about, and that's going to go on with that peg in there like so. So it's got a bit of a place, you have to make sure you get it sort of central. And then I'm just going to come along with my extra thin, and I'm just going to put some in the joint every couple of inches or so. Then I'm going to check that it's sort of even all round, like that. And then once that's in, I can just run round now, making sure I get plenty of glue in the joint. Any marks or anything afterwards can easily be sanded out. As I say, I'm going to prime the whole thing black and then paint it white, believe it or not, because the black will give a white a kind of richness you won't get from any other colour. There we go, there's that one. There we go. So that's that glued on. So now I need to get these two parts number 8. Which aren't on there. Here they are here, two parts number 8. And they've got great big holes in them which looks like location pins, but it's not. It's just obviously ejector pins. And there's another piece of sprue that can go in the bin, so we're getting ever closer to being done here. And if you are building this kit, let me know in the comments, perhaps let me know how you're getting on. So, I know one person commented that it drove them to frustration and they put it in the bin. I'd be interested, I can't remember what your name was now, you sent me that, but I'd be interested to know what frustrated you so much to put in the bin. Was it the joints, the main joints in it? Was it those, trying to get those F1 engines to look nice? Was it the Luda module with its, or was it all the poor moulding and fat legs and fat everything everywhere that was causing you the frustration? Okay, so this is just going to go on here like this, and it says in the instructions they line up. So what I'm going to do is put that down there, put a dab of glue on here to kind of stick it to the top, and then get it straight and even on those ridges. I'm just going to see if I can give it a little tweak round. That way I can get that piece, you see I get that piece even down those two ridges there. And then I can just plonk some extra thin down the sides. And that's that one in place. Now what I'm going to have to do here, nudge the bottom over. What I'm going to do is get a rule, put this down like this, get the rule, hold it against the side and make sure it all lines up like so. And then that's going to require a little bit of Mr. Surfacer in here around that joint. and a little bit of Mr. Surfacer in the gap, because that is one piece of conduit that should run down. There shouldn't be a step in it, so I'll be putting some Mr. Surfacer and then sanding it all in to bring it all into line. And the actual, this part here is slightly fatter, so I'll probably put some Mr. Surfacer down the sides as well, and then just sand it all in with a smooth stick, and it'll all blend in lovely then. There we go. So that's that side done. And then move on to the other side. Once again, just plonk it on there. I'm going to put some extra thin into that gap. So I'm basically gluing it to the conduit, and then I can position the bottom once I get the top right. And there we go. So that's those on, and you can see here the Tamiya extra thin has run all down there when I put it on the top. So, but that will just disappear. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to put some more in there. It looks like it wasn't perfectly flat after all. Right, looking at the instructions now, it's telling you to put this ring on onto the stage 1 and then add all these bits and pieces to the ring. So rather than do that, I'm just going to do it with the ring separate. So basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those number 18s, and then we've got these two 13s, which are the interconnecting pieces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to check if those are actually supposed to be on there, because I know that on the Airfix kit, I was reading a review in an Airfix magazine, and they actually removed some parts from here, I think. So I'm going to check they're actually supposed to be there. Yeah, there's actually 8 of these part 18s that go around this this ring, and they're obviously little rocket motors that help to force the units apart. Now I've got to check my references, because there's 8 of these on here, but there's nothing on stage 1, and I thought stage 1 had some rockets that actually blew it away. Little rockets, so that when it sort of, you know, the 5 F1 engines stopped, then it was potentially being inertia was keeping it going, and I've got a feeling that these little motors came on, and 2 motors on motors on here pushed them apart, and then this fell off after they'd come apart. So I need to check the direction and how many of these motors and location and everything. But the first thing I've got to do, if you look at every single one, has got a sink mark on both sides. Here you may not see it in the white plastic, but there is a sink mark. So I'm going to basically stick all of these into a piece of blue tack, and then I'm going to go around and put a dab of Mr. Surfacer on each side of each one, so that I can sand it down and get rid of that sink mark. And then while that's drying, I can do some research and see what I need to do. Right, so they do in fact have these 8 motors, and they're called ullage motors apparently. So what I was referring to, apparently there's some like teardrop bulges on part of the Airfix kit that have to be removed because they're totally fictitious. So that's what I was thinking of. Now these don't have a very positive location. All we've got here is a raised area, which is just showing, you know, I don't know if you can see that there, if you can pick it up in this white plastic. There's just a raised area there to glue these motors to, and there's 8 of them. And then also the other thing I've done, on the back of these there are positive ejector pin marks, so they need to be sanded off. And you've also got sink marks on the side, so you can see they're filled now with Mr. Surfacer. So what I decided to do was to get all these sort of level and parallel. What you don't want is, you don't want one up here and then the next one to be, sort of down here. You want them all level so they're all parallel. So I've made up just 3 pieces of scrap plastic, and what I'm after is a 4.5mm dimension. And then what I can do is just hold this in place like that, put it over that little piece there, and what I'm doing is pushing it down on the bench so that this is my spacer, so that when it's actually on the bench I can push the motor down and they'll all be to the same height. So let's see if I can. I'll do it, but I don't think you're going to see much, to be honest. So I can just put the motor in place there. I'm just going to put a small drop of extra thin on it just to keep it in place, and then put the motor down on top of it, or put the whole assembly down on top of it, and push the motor down, and there we go. That's now set at the right height. So all I've got to do now is play with it and get it parallel, and there we go. So I'll go on and do these now off camera, and because I think it's going to be quite painful for you to watch, to be honest, and then we'll go from there. And there we go, they're all on now. So there's all 8 of those, and as I say, I've just used that little jig, put that there, push down on the little motor, and then you get them all at the same height going round. If you are new to the hobby, they're probably going to try your patience a bit. Something that's worth noting, and I'll try and show you here with a pencil to point this out. When you actually fit them, if you look here, if I can get it to focus, you can see that this one here is fitted equal about those 2 lines there. Okay, so the center is between those 2 lines. The next one, the line goes through the middle of it. The next one, centers about. Next one, the line goes through the middle of it. You see what I mean? This line here, the molded on ridge, goes up through the center of that. The next one, it's equal about around 2 lines, so the point at the top needs to be between those 2 lines. So that's going to help you a little bit, get them, make sure they're all nice and square and everything. And I'm just going to leave those to dry now. And now I'm going to do some work on something else. I'll see what else I can pick up. Right, I've cleaned up the seam on the LES now, and cleaned it up all round, and then I've basically glued it onto the BPC. But what I would suggest, and I thought I'd film this and I didn't, I've got a 1.1mm drill, and I've just gone down and opened up the 2 holes that are there already, and then put 2 new holes in to give it a much better location, because when you actually glue it, all they do is give you 2 dimples for it to go in, and it's not very good. So I've just drilled the holes. It's only like 0.5 millimeter deep, so it will have affected the length if that was all to scale, but I think it's better to have a solid location for if it gets knocked, it won't just fall off. And then the other thing to do is make sure that it's actually true and vertical. So what I'm doing, I've got 2 steel blocks here. I've made them into an L shape, and what I'm doing is holding the blocks together and turning the BPC, and I'm watching what's happening on the end, and you can see that it's going over to the right now, so I need to just give it a tweak to the left and then see what happens there. Now it's still not good enough, so from there I'll just give it a tweak that way. There we go. That's very slightly off. What I'll do is I'll wait for the glue to get set a bit better. And there we go. So what I'm doing now is turning the BPC in there, as you can see, and I'm looking for that cone part on the top to stay true and not do this, basically. And then I know that it's vertical then. Okay. So get it almost right, and then once the glue starts to set a bit better, you can actually then, you'll have something to work with rather than just being like a gooey mess, if you like, for want of a better term. So I can just sit there now and go off, and I can look at something else. This is very, very bitty, this part of the build. It's sort of all over the place. until we start getting some paint on it. This is how it's going to be, I'm sorry. These are the parts I've got remaining, that's all I've got left to put on. So I'm going to get these parts cleaned up and then see where they all go, I think. Right then guys, I've got all these parts in front of me, and so what I intend to do is get all this now assembled as far as I can, and then we can look at some painting, which will be another video. Now the F1 engines and the base plate need to be painted separately, so they can go over there out the way. The lunar modules over here, that's going to be painted separately, so that can stay on. I've put the exhaust on that one now, so that one's all good. We got our interstage there, which is basically done. So I've got a second stage here. The first stage is here with the base glued on. Oh, the other thing I've done is I've put Mr. Surfacer on here, because I've seen so many models where they leave a join in this part here, and actually that conduit runs one continuous piece all the way down, so there shouldn't be any step there whatsoever. So I'm going to have to sand that out now and blend it all in, and then what I'm going to do is get some of that green primer on all these seams, so I can see just how good they look, and if I can make them absolutely invisible. And then I think what I'm going to do is leave it for, I don't know, a few days, just to make sure there's no sinkage anywhere, and then I'll go on and get the black primer on, and we'll get it all painted. But that will be another video. So for this one, it's this. And the other thing I want to show you, if you remember, I had some concerns about the fit of these doors where the lunar module goes. I think I will have them opening and having the lunar module coming out, we'll see. So what I've done here, the edges were kind of uneven and horrible gaps. So what I've done, I've put plastic card, I've assembled the unit together, and then I've put 10,000 plastic card, 0.25mm, in here and just glued it from one side. So I've always glued it from the right. So now to basically remove that excess, I just need to come in with my knife, and I'm lightly scoring. I'm not putting any pressure on, just lightly scoring here, just to just to make a scratch, if you like, in the actual 10,000 card. And then I can fold that over that way, and then fold it back that way, and it will snap off. There we go. And just to show you again, just scratching it with the knife, not putting any effort into it at all. Fold it over and then snap it back. And once again, fold it over, snap it back, and then those bits of plastic card can go in your sprue goo or in your spares bin, whatever. And then I'm going to do a similar thing on the bottoms here to get these gaps sorted out, and then I'll take it apart, well, take it apart so that the doors can open, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's a whole sort of other subject you may wish to get involved in, you may not. Now there's a load of raised detail on here. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. I need to check my references. I'm hoping not, so I can just sand it all off, because it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to work around. In fact, let's have a look and see what it comes apart like now. So I can open the doors like that now. Yep. And then if I just put it all back together again, let's just see how well this has worked, if at all. So that will slide down in there now like that. That will slide down in there like that. And we can see that straight away it's become a lot more, it's sort of, the CSM is going to be kind of holding it together rather than just being plonked on top. So we can put that in like that, tighten it up, and there we can see that we've got no gaps around there. So that's sorted. Like I say, I've got to sort this area here now, and I'll do that as part of the next video, because this has all got to be left to harden, or maybe not even show you at all, just tell you what I've done, because it's not very interesting watching me cut pieces of plastic card and slip them into a slot and glue them, wait for the glue to dry and then cut them, is it? So but that's basically what I've done there, is just added plastic card to the gap, glued it from one side, and then slit it off with a knife. Job done. Okay, now this down here I'm going to have to make a disc to go in there and then slot it in and just put it in where it's needed. There's not a gap everywhere. And as I say, hopefully I can just sand it all flush and it'll be it'll look like it has one. So Right, let me grab the instructions. We need to look at what we've got to do with all these bits and pieces. I know this stage here, these exhaust nozzles go on for stage 2. I mean, they're a complete joke. If you're into 35th scale modelling, I think these would make great little water bunkers, you know, like the plastic buckets you get these days. I think these were made in tin and they're sort of quite large. But yeah, they're going to plonk in there, I believe. Let's get the decals out of the way. So let's go through here. So this is all done, this is all done. And we're looking at stage 2. I've done these parts 8 there. I'm not using the base and the little men. This is all done, that's all done. Right, let's put those in. So we've got parts. So we've got 16. And normally these larger parts have the number on them. So that's 16 and that's 12. So I know for a fact that these will actually go in okay. So that's going to be that way up. This is our stage 2. And now I had to remember that I had to put it, that's right, that one's just going to go in there easily after. So this one needs to go in first. And that's going to sit up against that top flange. So just put that one in like that. Or did I push it in from behind? I can't remember now. I know that it goes in. It definitely goes in. I've put those support pieces. I've just had to pull it up over those support pieces, that's all. Now, it's not timed or anything, but it's looking like in the instructions that ladder looking bit goes there. That's how it looks to me. So we'll put it like that, and then I'm just going to get some extra thin and just put a couple of drops in there. And if you wonder why I'm not painting anything first, guys, it's because it's much better if you can. When you're modelling, it's better to paint assemblies if you can. Now, it means more masking and stuff, but you can imagine if I'd have painted this first, gluing it in there now, I would have probably made marks on the paint, whatever. So that's glued in there, nice and solid, and that can stay where it is. Right, it won't even fall out even if the glue doesn't work. And then this one here, this just slots into the bottom, so I need to squeeze that and push that in there. Now, I'm tempted to not glue this in or just lightly tack it in. If this turns out nice, I'll probably get an upgrade and replace all this because it's so awful. I mean, they go like that and then those exhausts go there, and that is the representation of the engines. It's awful. It's dire. So if it comes out really nice, I'll probably replace these with a resin upgrade, or I'll just glue stage 2 onto stage 1. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I mean, the other thing I could do, I suppose, is glue the interstage to stage 2, and then all you'll see is the back of the nozzles, but that needs to be painted first inside. So I'm just going to put a couple of spots of glue in here just to hold that in. Nothing too much, just a couple of spots. So that can stay like that there. And then what it's suggesting is we glue the cone part, which is here. We glue that onto the top of there. I might paint this first, paint the inside of that, and then glue it on, and then we'll paint the outside afterwards. So I'm not going to glue that on now, but I can actually place it on. I've got some little lugs that line up in there. So yeah, I'll glue it on before I do any external painting. We've got some little mold, some little nubbins that need to come off as well. But I'll glue it on before I do any external painting. But I think I'll paint the inside of that first before I put anything on. And I'm quite surprised we're just left with a hole down the middle. And there's nothing that goes in that hole. That's quite surprising. So another issue. This part here, 17, I've already glued on. So I think you can see that. Yeah, can you see what I'm doing on the instructions? This part 17 is already glued on, so that's in. Now we need to glue those buckets into there. So there's 5 of those that are going to fit in there. They're just awful. So I'll put one in. I mean, they've even got there's mismoulding on the edges, and one of them, if you remember, one of them was broken off the sprue when I got the kit. Well, that's ripped part of the edge away, so that hasn't done me any favours either. So I'm doing this just for the sake of, you know, doing a complete build online rather than missing bits out just because I don't want to do them. You want to see how it all goes together, don't you guys? Although most of you have probably built this kit. It's probably sold 1 million. And there we go. So that's those 5 in there. And then this is then going to glue onto there. So I'm just going to put that in there. And then get me extra thin and put, as I say, just a couple of spots so I can break it off and fit some upgrades if I need to. I'm not sure what the upgrade, I haven't even looked. Maybe the upgrade replaces the whole lot or just this piece, I don't know. There we go. So that's on. And that's our, I mean, you can see how pathetic that is. You've got an exhaust nozzle there with nothing in front of it. But I suppose, as I said earlier, if we put this on, get this timed correctly, if we put this interstage on and glue this on, then I'm guessing it's going to look okay. Maybe it'll look okay like that, I don't know. So we'll leave it like that for now. So that's on there. And now we're going to add these parts to stage 3. So I've got that one's going to go in last, so this one's going to go in first. Nope, sorry, this one's going in there last. This one's going into there. So yeah, this one goes in first. So I'm just going to drop that in there. And that has to sit up on top of that ridge in there. So I did do this before, so I know it will go. I'm going to need to get something, piece of wooden stick or something. Just hold that up above there and then give it a good shove on that side and it should go up. No, it's sitting below that ridge, so I need to put it back down again. Get it up above that ridge. Working from inside now. There we go, and then just push that, get that above that ridge. I may edit this out, guys, because this is not very interesting for you, is it? Then push it in. And that's almost in. There we go. And that's gone in like that, so that's now sitting above that ridge in there. So again, I can get a couple of drops of extra thin and just dab it in there. Doesn't have to be too mad with the glue because it's sort of clipped in there itself. It's not going anywhere. So that's in there. And then it wants us to glue this exhaust nozzle on. But I'm going to check all the paint and everything on that first before I do. So I'll paint all this and then glue that on after. Excuse me. Now then, we've got these little strakes and stuff to go on there. These parts here, parts 30, here's these two here. On my kit, they were terrible mould mismatch. There were massive steps on them, so be warned about that on yours if you're building one of these. And be prepared to get your knife and sanding sticks out and give it some proper oomph. So that's not a very good fit at all. It's just all flopping around. So that's going that way. I believe these are little boosters, aren't they? I'm sure somebody can tell me in the comments. There we go. They're an awful fit. The hole is about a millimetre wider than the peg that goes in, I think. So I'm just going to put plenty of glue in there. To make sure I get a decent joint. And then just square that. You can see the mismatch on that one there, where I haven't quite sanded the end. So I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that before paint. In fact, I will get my pencil and put an arrow there just to remind me. There we go, that's that done. Now we've also got these little parts 27, 29 and 28 to go on. So 27 is the short one. So that's going there. That's going on the bit that I actually modified. So that fits nicely on there now. So I'll just put some glue on it and that's it. That's that gone down. That's that nice. Then we've got this longer one here which goes on this raised area here. That's a little bit shorter than the raised area, so just checking that is the right area. Yes, it is. So it's a little bit shorter, so I'm going to make sure that I've got an equidistant bit at each end so that it doesn't look odd. Couple of dabs of glue on. Give it a little nudge. There we go, guys. Just to give you an idea of time, today is Monday, May the 6th, bank holiday here in the UK. Not that it matters to me, every day's a bank holiday for me. And then finally we've got this part here, 28, and that's going on here there. Also beware, these parts had ejector pins on the back of them. This model is covered in raised ejector pins everywhere on all the joining faces, so be very careful, because if you don't sand them off you won't get a good fit on your parts, and it will ruin your model. So, you know, every one of all 10 halves of these, they all had raised ejector pin marks on them. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to put a dab of glue on there, just so I can put this on a position and it won't fall off. So I just want to make sure it's square, flush at either end. It's a lovely fit. Okay, so that's that. I'm assuming these are all fairings and for valves and conduits and stuff. But certainly the third stage is getting lots of attention. So that's that done. And then it's telling us to fit that onto there, then build up our CSM, which we've already done. That's on there. I've got that nozzle to go on, which I probably will do and then we've done all this part here. We've done the lunar module, we've done the LES, so all I've got to do now is put these on, but I'm not going to put them on yet until I've done all the sanding. So once I know all my seams are good and everything, then I'll glue them on before we do the final paint. but they're also a very tight fit. These slots need to be just opened out a touch with the knife, because they are a very tight fit and you won't get a good joint if you just push them in. You want them to be a sliding fit, so you can just join them in like that. And there's an ejector pin mark on those, which will probably help you because it will kind of help to lock it in once it's in. So there we go. That's them, and they're going to require a little work on the seam as well by the look of it. But I'm going to deal with this first. So I'm going to get a green sanding stick, take that fin off, and I'm just going to go over the top like this and keep moving in a radius so I don't end up putting a flat spot. And we can see straight away, if I get a straight edge, you'll see that the actual part I've put on is higher than the actual conduit, but also this is tapered. This is tapered out. So I'm just going to have to make it look good. In real life I think this would have been parallel, but for moulding restrictions it's tapered, so it's got some draft so that it comes out the mould tool. So just to make it look right, all I'm going to do is just get rid of that seam and kind of blend it in. So it would be correct, it would be dead straight, and all this would be dead straight, but to keep it in line with the model I'm just going to blend it so it looks right. A bit like sometimes you have to put a shelf a bit off to have it level with the ceilings, just so that it looks right. And after all, that's pretty much what modelling is all about, is how it looks, isn't it? It doesn't form much other purpose in life other than unless you're doing working models. So there we go. I'll just blend that out. Go down the side. Just blending it in. And what I've used on here, in case you missed it, I've used Mr. Surfacer, which is my which is like my life support system. I couldn't do modelling without Mr. Surfacer, I don't think. I absolutely love the stuff. And if you haven't got any, I would recommend you go and get yourself a jar. Get the 1000 to start with. That's the sort of middle of the road one. It's brilliant. So there we go. So that's blended in now on that side. Just do the other side. And I think what I'll do in a minute, I've got part 5 ready to load. Part 6 is ready to go. I mean, part 5 and part 6 are both on YouTube ready to launch, but I don't want to launch them all too fast because people get fed up. So I'm going to get one of my hard sanding sticks, blend in the side with the hard one, because the sponge may well go into the groove and kind of accentuate it, whereas this one won't. This is a cheap nail sanding stick from these actually come from Tesco's or Asda, and they're almost like a very thin wood, so they're very rigid, so they will only give you a straight edge when you sand. They won't go into the contours and stuff. So that's one done. That's one done, blended. It needs a bit more in that joint. It's sunk a bit. But yeah, so I'll get that finished off now, and then we're kind of ready for paint. So I think we can call that a day there, guys. We got these done. I didn't fit this, did I? Sorry. This one goes in here. Oops, it's gone upside down. It just wants to keep going upside down. So if I push it in like that, oh, it's gone beyond the I know what I'll do. Big lump of blue tack. Big piece of blue tack on the end of a stick, like that. Push that on there, and I should be able to get that to go in. Nope, it doesn't want to play ball, does it? Like I said, I might edit this out as well. It just wants to keep falling over and going upside down. But it does show you that it is possible. It is possible to get these in afterwards, he says. You don't have to put them in when they say. And the reason I left them out is so that I could actually get down inside and glue it all from the inside, and not have to worry about the joint being weak. And you can see my problem here. This just wants to keep going upside down. So if I just tip that over now, I might be able to get it. Yeah, there we go, got it. And it's sat on its platform there. So I'm just going to get some, I'll get a paintbrush actually. Just get any old paintbrush. Dip it in the Tamiya extra thin. Just get some in there to hold it in place, and there we go. That's it now, and that ain't going anywhere. There we go. So then guys, that is that. So we are now ready. What I'm going to do off camera, I'm going to do some work on this and get this all perfected. I'm going to get some paint onto all these seams and see how everything looks. And then what I'll do, this is part 7. Part 8 will be all about the painting. So when I come back, I'll probably have some primering done, or maybe show you the primer. And what we'll do is we'll get all these end tanks done, these tanks and everything done first. And then we can mask them up, and then we'll put the whole thing together and just spray it all black. And then we start doing all the white bits. I'm leaving this out for now because in here I want to paint all this inside here zinc chromate, and then just glue that in afterwards. I haven't glued these on because I think this is all white, and then these go on, and they're obviously a metallic colour, and this is all metallic here. So I'll basically be putting that in after. I'm assuming it fits okay. There's a cutout on it there, so I don't know where that cutout's going to go. I'm assuming that cutout fits around there then. So that's going to go in like that. Lovely. It's a great fit. So that's all good. I haven't fitted this engine yet because obviously I want to paint all in there first, and then I'll fit that after. Not fitting the fins yet. I won't be using the little men. I'll go in my spares box. This needs to go on the back of the command service module, so I'll get that on now. Yeah, I'll get that on now. That'll be handy to hold it with while I'm doing some painting, I should think. So that's on like that. That can go back in there. And then twist it all together. The LES has gone off now, so that can just sit on the top of the command module. And there we go, we've got our Apollo set up there all ready to go. Ready to go to the moon. So thanks for watching this, guys. This has been part 7. As I said earlier, part 8 will be all about paint, and we'll go from there. And I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I'm going to have a look online now, see if I can get some aftermarket, maybe see how it comes out first. Let's see how it comes out. It might look awful when it's all painted and everything. I might make a right mess of it. So thanks for watching. If you've liked this, please give me a like, and if you enjoy your space stuff, then there's more to come, and there's a few bits and pieces on my site already. And just thanks for watching, and if you're still awake, well done. See you later. Bye bye.